Imagine this. Two people sit in the same church, hear the same message, pray to the same God. 10 years later, one is drowning in debt, and the other has more than enough, giving, building, funding kingdom projects. Same Bible, same Jesus, same Matthew 25:29. So why does it look like life keeps giving more to those who already have, and taking away from those who don't? If you've ever read Matthew 25:29 and thought, "That's unfair," stay with this, because what Jesus is revealing is not cruelty, it's code. A quantum increase code, a spiritual law of expansion that quietly runs your money, your opportunities, your relationships, your entire life. And once you understand it, you stop feeling like the victim of the verse and start becoming the one it favors. Before we dive in, if you're hungry for Bible-based, quantum-backed teaching on money, purpose, and abundance, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and drop a comment saying, "I'm ready to crack the code." That tells the algorithm there are believers who actually want this kind of content, and it helps this message reach more people. Now let's go straight to the verse. Jesus says in Matthew 25:29, "For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he has will be taken away." On the surface, that sounds harsh, right? It almost sounds like God is saying, if you're already doing well, you get rewarded. If you're struggling, tough luck. But that's not what's happening. This line comes from the parable of the talents. A master gives one servant 5 talents, another 2, another 1. The first 2 multiply what they were given. The last one buries it in the ground and returns it untouched. The master takes the 1 talent from the fearful servant and gives it to the one who turned 5 into 10, and then he says the line, "To everyone who has, more will be given." Here's the question. What is it that they have? Is it just money? Or is Jesus pointing to something deeper? Because when you look at this through the lens of quantum principles and through thinkers like Gregg Braden, you realize this isn't about God playing favorites. It's about alignment with law. Gregg Braden talks a lot about the bridge between ancient spiritual texts and modern science. He shows that the universe isn't random, it's patterned, it's responsive. In other words, reality responds not just to what you say you want, but to what you embody, what you have in your consciousness, your expectation, your identity. Now read Matthew 25:29 through that lens. To everyone who has what? Has a mindset of stewardship. Has a pattern of multiplication. Has a consciousness of, I can take what I'm given and increase it. To that person, more can safely be given, because the pattern they carry inside will repeat itself outside. They are a walking expansion field. But to the one who does not have what? Who doesn't have that inner pattern, who doesn't have that trust, who doesn't have that willingness to risk, to act, to partner with what they've been given. Even what they do have starts to decay, slip away, break down. This is not unfair, it's automatic. It's like gravity. Gravity doesn't hate you if you step off a roof, it just does what it does. Matthew 25:29 is Jesus saying, there is a spiritual gravity to increase. When you embody increase, increase finds you. When you embody fear, stagnation, and burying, loss finds you. And here, where quantum language helps. In quantum physics, we learn that the observer changes the outcome. Not by wishing, by the state of consciousness they bring into the experiment. Gregg Braden often talks about this in the context of prayer. He says ancient traditions didn't pray for rain by begging. They prayed rain by feeling as if the rain had already come. They entered the state. They felt the mud under their feet, the smell of wet earth. They weren't asking, they were aligning. Now let's bring that back to the parable. The first 2 servants are praying like that. They receive what they're given and step into the state of I am a multiplier. This grows in my hands. They move, they act, they risk, they trade. The last servant prays a very different prayer. His inner state is, I know you're harsh, I'm afraid I might lose this, better hide it. Two different states. Same master. Same God. Same economy. Different quantum signal. And the field responds. To everyone who has. Has what? Has the internal pattern of increase. Once you see that, Matthew 25:29 stops being a threat and becomes an X-ray. It exposes what you carry inside toward money, toward opportunities, toward what God has already put in your hands. So let's get practical. Where in your life have you buried what God gave you? Maybe it's a gift you keep second-guessing. Maybe it's an offer you never fully launched. Maybe it's money you refuse to move because you're terrified of losing it. You call it being careful. Heaven calls it burying a talent. Here's the hard truth. Increase is attracted to movement, not to storage. The servant who buried the talent did the one thing the master never asked for, nothing. Gregg Braden talks about how the field responds to coherent signals. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions all line up around a clear intention, you create coherence. Most believers have incoherent signals. I want more money, thought. I'm terrified of messing up, so I won't act, emotion. I'll stay exactly where I am, action. That's not having. That's canceling yourself out. Now imagine the version of you that has. Not just money. Has clarity. Has a pattern of acting. Has a habit of multiplying. Has a daily relationship with Scripture that rewires your identity into steward, not victim. To that version of you, more is safe. Heaven can trust you with an extra talent, an extra opportunity, an extra stream of income. And the law says, to everyone who has, more will be given. This is why some people seem to catch break after break. They're not lucky. They're predictable. They have an inner pattern of saying yes to what God puts in their hand, and the field keeps sending them more to say yes to. If this is resonating, pause for a second and tap the like button so this teaching doesn't get buried by shallow content in the algorithm. Now let's bring this straight into your money life. Think about your current talents, your skills, your content, your network, your audience size, even if it's small, your current income, even if it's not where you want it yet. Question 1. Are these talents active or buried? Are you in the game or are you in the ground? You don't have to answer that out loud, but answer it honestly to yourself. Because this is where Matthew 25:29 either becomes a curse or a blessing. When you bury, the law subtracts. When you multiply, the law adds. Gregg Braden's research into heart-brain coherence shows that your heart's electromagnetic field is the strongest signal your body generates. When your heart and mind agree, that signal impacts not just your biology, but your environment. What do you think happens when your heart and mind both agree on, I never have enough, I can't risk, I'm not that kind of person? That signal informs your posture. Your posture informs your decisions. Your decisions inform your results. And your results then confirm your original belief. That's the even what he has will be taken away cycle. Not because God enjoys stripping you, but because your own pattern keeps dissolving what you're given. Now flip it. What happens when your heart and mind agree on, I am a steward, I may not have everything yet, but what I do have grows in my hands. You start treating every small amount of money, every small audience, every small opportunity as seed, not as final harvest. You move differently. You ask differently. You show up differently. And life responds. If you want a structured way to live this out daily, instead of just liking a video, and then forgetting. That's exactly why I created the Quantum Wealth Scripture Journal. It's a 30-day guided journal where every day you get one wealth scripture, one quantum lens teaching, one reflection, and one simple money action to actually move your talents instead of bury them. If that sounds like the support you've been needing, there's a link in the description and in the first pinned comment where you can get instant access. Now let's keep going. There's a part of the parable people skip. Before the master takes away the talent, he asks the fearful servant a question. If you knew I reap where I have not sown, why didn't you at least put my money in the bank so I could have received interest? In other words, if you were too afraid to fully play the game, why didn't you at least do the safest possible version of movement? Think about that for your life. You might not be ready to launch the business, but could you start the skill? You might not be ready to invest thousands, but could you start studying and moving tens? You might not be ready to go all in on your calling, but could you go in enough that interest starts accumulating? Jesus is saying, if you won't be bold, at least stop being still. Because stillness is where the subtraction begins. This is where quantum and Bible harmonize beautifully. In physics, zero movement means no new information, no new interaction, no new possibilities collapsing into reality. In life, zero movement means no new people, no new income, no new patterns. Matthew 25:29 is not cruel. It's descriptive. It's telling you, whatever you embody today will amplify tomorrow. If you embody victim, more reasons to be a victim will appear. If you embody steward, more things to steward will show up. So how do you shift from the one-talent consciousness to the five-talent consciousness? Let's make this brutally practical. Step 1, name what you have. Most people complain about what they don't have so much, they never inventory what they do. What are your current talents in concrete form? Maybe it's an audience of 300 subscribers, a skill in writing, designing, listening, organizing, a job with at least some income, a network of a few people who believe in you. Write it down. If you don't name it, you won't multiply it. Step 2, decide how it can grow by even 10%. You don't have to jump from 1 to 10 talents in a week. But what would it look like to turn 1 into 1.1? Can you raise your rate slightly? Create one new offer. Post content consistently for 30 days. Ask one person in your network for a collaboration. That tiny move pulls you into the has category. Because having is not just about quantity, it's about direction. The servant with 2 talents didn't end with 10, he ended with 4. But he ended in increase. And the law of more will be given kicked in. Step 3, align your inner narrative with your actions. Gregg Braden would call this coherence. If you're taking action but your inner dialogue is still, this will fail, I'm not that person, I always mess things up, your signal is split. Start catching those lines. Replace I always lose money with I am learning to multiply money. Replace I'm bad with finances with I'm becoming a diligent steward. Say it until it stops sounding like a lie and starts sounding like your new normal. Then watch what happens when action plus belief start walking in step. Finally, step 4, stop calling God unfair. It's easy to look at people who have more and whisper, must be nice, God just keeps giving to them. But you don't know the nights they spent risking, the years they spent multiplying tiny talents, the repetitions they invested when the crowd was small, the hard internal work they did to break poverty programming. Instead of resentment, try curiosity. What pattern do they have that I can learn? Because this is the paradox. The moment you start honoring increase in others, you start inviting it into yourself. To him who has, more will be given. If that verse has ever scared you, let it now become your affirmation. Say, I am someone who has. I have faith. I have gifts. I have something to multiply. I have a God who trusts me with talents. I have an inner pattern of expansion that is getting stronger every day. The more that becomes your truth, the more your outer life will be forced to adjust. If this opens something in you, let me know in the comments which part hit you the hardest and what talent you're committing to multiply this week. And if you're serious about rewiring your financial identity with Bible and quantum principle, remember to check the link in the description and the first comment to get your Quantum Wealth Scripture Journal and walk this out day by day. Because in the kingdom, the rule is simple. What you honor moves. What you bury dies. You choose which side of Matthew 25:29 you live on. Now the question is, when God looks at your life today, does he see someone he can trust with more?